Along the banks of the Nile, where the golden sands of the desert meet the fertile black soil, one of the greatest mythological traditions in human history was born. For more than 3,000 years, the ancient Egyptians did not only build temples, pyramids, and colossal statues, they also created a vast spiritual universe, where gods, humans, and nature were woven into a single sacred order. Egyptian mythology is not a collection of disconnected fairy tales. It is a system of thought, a way to explain existence, death, order, and chaos. And unlike many ancient belief systems that have faded into history, Egyptian mythology continues to haunt the modern world. We still see it in films, novels, art, spiritual symbols, and even in humanity's deepest fear of death. But to understand this world, we must return to a time before the gods themselves, before there was earth, before there was sky, before there was light. There was only noon, the primordial ocean, invisible, infinite, without form and without order. Noon was not nothingness, but chaos unshaped. Everything that had ever existed and everything that would ever exist slept within its dark waters. The Egyptians did not believe in a single creation story. They understood that no myth could contain the full mystery of existence. So each sacred city preserved its own version, not in conflict, but in harmony. At Heliopolis, the city of the sun, the priests taught that from noon arose a self-created being, Atum. With no father and no mother, Atum stood alone in the endless void. In an act both sacred and strange, he brought forth the first divine pair, Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. From Shu and Tefnut came Geb, god of the earth, and Nut, goddess of the sky. At first they were locked in an eternal embrace, but Shu separated them, lifting Nut high to become the heavens, and pressing Geb below to form the ground. The space between them became the world of humankind. From Geb and Nut were born the next generation, Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys, the gods who would shape all of Egyptian mythology. In Hermopolis, a different tradition emerged. Before even Atum, there existed the Ogdoad, 8 primordial deities representing darkness, water, infinity, and the hidden. Together, they formed the cosmic egg. When it cracked open, the first light burst forth, and the sun was born. And in Memphis, the priests believed that the god Ptah did not create the world with his body, but with thought and speech. He conceived the universe in his heart, then spoke it into existence. This stands as one of the most abstract and philosophical creation concepts of the ancient world. Though different, all these stories share one truth. Creation is not the making of something from nothing, it is the placing of order upon chaos. From that moment, a cosmic principle was born, Maat. Maat is truth, justice, balance, and order. Without Maat, the universe would collapse back into noon. Every sunrise, every flood of the Nile, every human breath is proof that order is still triumphing over chaos. And within that eternal cycle, the Egyptians found hope that death is not the end, only another doorway into life. If there is one image that ruled both the sky and the minds of the ancient Egyptians, it is the sun. But to them, the sun was not merely a shining body in the heavens, it was a living god, the heartbeat of the universe, and the daily proof that order still exists within chaos. They called him Ra. Each day, Ra does not simply cross the sky. He is reborn, he grows old, he dies, and lives again in an endless cycle. This rhythm was not only a reflection of nature, but a model for the human soul itself. At dawn, when the first rays tear through the darkness, Ra appears as Khepri, the scarab-headed god. The Egyptians watched scarab beetles rolling balls of dung that contained their eggs across the desert and believed life was born from nothingness. In the same way, Khepri rolls the sun out of the darkness each morning. Every sunrise is a new creation, a fresh victory of order over chaos. As the sun climbs high, Khepri transforms into Ra, the supreme king of the day. From his sacred solar bark, Manjet, Ra gazes upon the world, granting light, warmth, and life to all beings. He does not travel alone. With him are gods who embody knowledge, magic, and power, because light is not only physical strength, but also awareness. But when the sun begins to sink, Ra does not simply rest. He takes on the form of Atum, the aged god of decline. The Egyptians did not fear this image, for they understood that death is an inseparable part of the cycle of life. When night falls, the true journey begins. Ra boards his second bark, Mesketet, and enters Duat, the perilous underworld. This is no peaceful realm, but a labyrinth of darkness divided into 12 regions, one for each hour of the night. Each region is filled with monstrous beings, wandering spirits, and forces of chaos waiting to devour the light. At the heart of the underworld, Ra must face the greatest enemy of the cosmos, Apophis, the colossal serpent of chaos and non-being. Apophis does not represent another god, but the threat of nothingness itself, the collapse of all order. Every night it tries to swallow the sun and plunge the world into eternal darkness. The battle never ends. Each night Apophis is cut down, torn apart, and each night it is reborn. This reflects the Egyptians' deepest belief. Chaos can never be destroyed completely. It can only be restrained, day after day, through vigilance and right action. In his nightly journey, Ra also unites with Osiris, Lord of the Dead. This union forms a sacred moment. The sun absorbs the power of rebirth from Osiris, and Osiris is illuminated by Ra's light. Life and death become one. As the night draws to an end, Ra transforms once more. He becomes young again. A faint glow appears on the horizon, and then Ra is reborn as Khepri, the child of light. Dawn returns. To the Egyptians, this eternal cycle was a promise. If the sun can overcome the darkness every night, then the human soul can do the same.
The Broken King, Tragedy, Resurrection, and the Eternal War. In all of Egyptian mythology, no story touches the human heart more deeply than the legend of Osiris. This is not merely the tale of a god, it is a symbol of death, love, betrayal, and the hope of rebirth. When the gods still walked upon the earth, Osiris, son of Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky, became the first king of Egypt. Unlike the tyrants who would come later, Osiris ruled with compassion. He taught humanity how to farm, make wine, establish laws, and honor the gods. Under his reign, Egypt entered a golden age where Maat, the sacred order, prevailed. At Osiris's side was Isis, his sister and his wife. She was not only a queen, but the embodiment of wisdom and magic. Together, they formed the perfect union, harmony between power and love. But in the shadows, one watched them all, Set, brother of Osiris, lord of the desert, storms, and chaos. Set grew jealous of the devotion Osiris inspired. He craved the throne, and Isis as well. Set devised a cruel scheme. At a lavish feast, he presented a beautifully crafted chest, measured precisely to Osiris's body. He declared, "Whoever fits inside may keep it." When Osiris lay down, the lid slammed shut. Molten lead was poured over it, sealing every escape. The chest was cast into the Nile. Osiris was dead, the first king murdered by his own blood. When Isis learned the truth, her heart shattered, but she did not surrender to despair. With falcon wings, she wandered the world in search of her husband's body. At last, she found the chest in Byblos, swallowed by the trunk of a great tree. She brought Osiris back to Egypt, but Set discovered him. In a rage, he tore Osiris's body into 14 pieces, scattering them across the land to prevent any resurrection. Isis did not give up. With her sister Nephthys, she gathered each fragment. Wherever a piece was found, a shrine was raised. explaining why Osiris was worshipped throughout Egypt. Only one part could not be recovered, his phallus, devoured by a fish of the Nile. Isis crafted a replacement from gold. Through ancient magic, Isis reassembled Osiris's body, wrapped him in linen, and created the first mummy. For a brief moment, Osiris returned to life, long enough for Isis to conceive their son, Horus. Osiris did not return to the world of the living. He descended into Duat, becoming Lord of the Dead and Judge of Souls. Horus, the child of darkness, was hidden and raised by Isis in the marshes of the Nile. Set sought to kill him, but Isis protected her son with magic. Horus grew up in fear, pain, and a burning desire for vengeance. When he came to age, Horus challenged Set for the throne. Their struggle lasted 80 years, fought not only with weapons, but with cunning, law, and sorcery. Set tore out Horus's eye. Horus stripped Set of his power. At last, the gods declared their judgment. Horus was the rightful heir. From then on, every living pharaoh was seen as Horus incarnate, and in death each became Osiris. This legend taught the Egyptians that death is not the end, betrayal cannot rule forever, and from the deepest darkness, life can rise again. The feather of truth, when the soul is judged. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not the end, it was a trial. When the final breath left the body, the soul entered Duat, the realm where light and darkness meet. But not all were allowed to pass. Before reaching eternal life, every soul had to face a sacred rite, the weighing of the heart. In the great hall known as the Hall of Two Truths, the soul stood before 42 divine judges. At the center was a vast scale. On one side lay the heart, which the Egyptians believed held memory, will, and sin. On the other rested the feather of Maat, symbol of truth, justice, and order. If the heart was heavier than the feather, the soul was devoured by Atum, part lion, part crocodile, part hippopotamus. No heaven, no hell, only eternal annihilation. But if the heart was lighter, the soul was welcomed into the field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise, where there is no hunger, no illness, only life continuing in peace. Presiding over the ritual was Osiris, Lord of the Dead. Anubis guided the soul to the scales. Thoth, god of wisdom, recorded the judgment. Yet all of this revolved around a single principle, Maat. Maat was not only a goddess, she was the law of the universe. She was the rising of the sun, the flooding of the Nile, the heartbeat of the world. If Maat were to fall, the universe would collapse back into noon, the primordial chaos. Every pharaoh, upon ascending the throne, was given a small statue of Maat, a reminder that the crown existed as long as order was preserved. In the temples, the king offered Maat to the gods, not gold or silver, but the very order of the world itself. In daily life, to live by Maat meant to speak truth, keep one's word, respect others, avoid abuse of power, and protect balance. The Egyptians believed that every small action rippled through the universe. Lies weaken Maat. Injustice strengthens chaos. Selfishness creates fractures in the fabric of the world. Unlike many later religions, Egyptian morality was not built on absolute prohibitions, but on balance. Even virtue required moderation. To give so much that one destroys one's family is also a violation of Maat. Blind loyalty is just as destructive as betrayal. Maat does not demand perfection, it demands harmony. And like the son of Ra, Maat had to be upheld every single day. Every temple ritual, every prayer, every righteous act was a blade raised against chaos. The Egyptians did not believe the world would ever be completely safe. They believed order was a fragile victory, one that must be defended without end.
So, when we look at Egyptian mythology, we do not see only animal-headed gods or ancient tales. We see a civilization that dared to face death, not with fear, but with hope. They believed that if you live rightly, speak truth, and keep balance, then even when darkness devours the world, the light will return.